Six young men, full of life and adventure, entered Mossdale Caverns on a sunny June day in 1967. They never came out alive. This is the story of Britain's worst caving disaster. On June 24, 1967, 10 young cavers set out to explore Mossdale Caverns. 6 of them would never see daylight again. The cave system, located 5 kilometers north of Grassington and east of Coniston in the Yorkshire Dales, was known for its challenging nature. It was a place where only the bravest dared to venture. On May 31st, 1941, while searching for a fallen tobacco pipe, Leakey stumbled upon the entrance to Mossdale Caverns. What followed was a series of solo explorations that pushed the boundaries of human endurance. Leakey's resistance to cold and fatigue seemed superhuman. Where others retreated, he pressed on. For over 20 years after Leakey's initial exploration, few dared to follow in his footsteps. Mossdale Caverns gained a fearsome reputation. It was dubbed the most strenuous cave known. But by the early 1960s, a new generation of cavers emerged. Armed with neoprene wetsuits, they sought new challenges. In 1963, Mike Boone and Pete Livesey, disciples of Leakey, became the first to reach the end of the known cave since their mentor's exploration 22 years earlier. 10 young adventurers from 3 different caving clubs gathered in Coniston Village, united by their passion for exploration and the allure of Mossdale. The group was led by Dave Adamson, 26, the eldest, and included a diverse mix of personalities and experience levels. Among them were Jeff Boireau, 24, a newlywed, John Ogden, 21, Jim Cunningham, 21, John Shepard, 21, Colin Vickers, 23, Bill Frakes, 19, Michael Ryan, 17, the youngest and a promising beginner, Colette Lord, 19, and Morag Forbes, 22, who was engaged to marry Adamson the following month. This ad hoc team, brought together by their shared love of caving, set out on what would become a fateful expedition into the depths of Mossdale. Adamson and Boireau planned to blast through a blocked passage called Mini Cow. The others were there as support, eager to add Mossdale to their list of conquered caves. The weather was good when they set out, but the forecast was threatening. Thunderstorms were likely. Cunningham and Shepard had doubts about the wisdom of the expedition, but Adamson assured them he knew safe places in case of flooding. At the cave entrance, the party split. Adamson led his team into the depths with their explosives. Ogden couldn't resist a jab at Cunningham and Shepard, accusing them of using the women as an excuse to chicken out. Morag watched as her fiancé Dave disappeared into the gloom. The 4 who stayed behind, Cunningham, Shepard, Colette, and Morag, emerged from their short trip at 5 p.m. A light rain was falling, but it didn't seem significant. Cunningham and Shepard drove Colette back to Ingleton. Morag decided to wait for the others, who weren't expected back before midnight. As the hours passed, the rain intensified. Morag sought shelter in a barn, but she was worried. She checked the cave entrance twice, alarmed by how quickly Mossdale Beck was rising. In just 3 hours, 1 inch of rain fell. When Morag returned to the cave entrance at 9 p.m., she was met with a horrifying sight. A lake of swirling water had completely submerged the cave entrance. In a panic, she ran 2 miles through the driving rain to Yarnbury Farm. Farmer Riley called the police. By 11:10 p.m., a massive cave rescue operation was underway. The Upper Wharfdale Fell rescue team was first on the scene. But Mossdale was unlike any cave they'd dealt with before. It was the domain of super cavers, and they had no blueprint for a rescue. The team leaders, Len Huff and Des Birch, quickly realized they were out of their depth. They called in the larger cave rescue organization. Within minutes, phones were ringing in cavers' pubs across the Dales. One call reached the Martin Arms near Ingleton, where Cunningham and Shepard were enjoying a pint, oblivious to the tragedy. They grabbed their still wet gear and raced back to Mossdale. The scene that greeted the rescuers was nightmarish. Mossdale had transformed into a lake, the cave completely submerged. Hundreds of would-be rescuers huddled in the rain, unsure where to begin. Then, like a cavalry charge, A convoy of fire engines, JCBs, and tractors ground their way up the moor. As dawn broke on Midsummer's Day, the moor resembled a war zone. Hundreds of volunteers worked tirelessly, many using their bare hands to dig a diversion ditch. The ditch was 6 feet wide, 10 feet deep, and 100 yards long. They also built a makeshift dam, 10 feet high, 15 feet thick, and 70 yards long. It was a Herculean effort, completed in just one morning. But would it be enough? Would it hold? And even if it did, would the water levels fall in time? Jim Eyre, 41, found himself at the center of the rescue effort. A week earlier, Adamson had invited him to join the expedition. Eyre had always avoided Mossdale, convinced it was a killer. Now, after a sleepless night of digging, he was preparing to lead the main rescue team underground. The dam required constant repair. Shifts of exhausted cavers crashed out in a tent village that had sprung up on the moor. Despite the grim circumstances, Eyre felt a surge of pride. These were fiercely independent individuals, often competitors, now united in a common cause. By late Sunday morning, with the help of 19 fire pumps, the water level began to fall. Eyre led his sleep-deprived team into the still gurgling cave. Cunningham and Shepard insisted on joining, despite concerns about their mental state. Frank Barnes, nicknamed the Gentle Giant, was perhaps the most determined. John Ogden had been his closest friend since childhood. They had explored their first cave together at age 11. Barnes knew that Ogden's father was outside, desperately waiting for news of his only son. The rescue team's first task was to establish a phone link. They crawled through flood debris, foam filming the roof, hearts in their mouths. They made it as far as Rough Chamber, a cavern large enough to stand in. Beyond that, the low passages leading to the notorious marathon crawl were ominously water-filled, making strange gurgling noises as air began to circulate. As the water slowly receded, Tony Waltham, a London-based caver who had rushed to join the rescue, arrived. To everyone's shock, he was the only one there who had been to the end of Mossdale before. With Waltham's expertise, they began what would be the hardest journey of their lives. The passage, known as Far Marathon, was unnaturally dry and silent. The 900-foot crawl, just 10 inches high and 2 feet wide, was too tight for anyone to pass if they met survivors coming the other way. Eyre let Waltham lead a small team forward. What Waltham found was heartbreaking. 2 bodies blocked the narrow passage. Crawling over them, he found 3 more just beyond. There was no sign of the 6th caver. When Eyre caught up, he found many of the team weeping. Waltham's words were simple and devastating. "Go back, Jim. They're dead." Eyre phoned for instructions and was told to get everyone out immediately. Outside, the situation was deteriorating. The makeshift dam was visibly shaking. Twice it collapsed, and cavers formed human barriers in the stream to hold back the water. The battle raged through the night. 5 bodies had been found, but where was John Ogden? Could the expert cave diver still be alive, perhaps trapped in some unknown high cavern? In a twist of fate, 26 years after he first discovered Mossdale, Bob Leakey was called in to help. Early Monday morning, the 53-year-old led another team, including Frank Barnes, to search areas where he thought Ogden might have survived. They went beyond where the 5 bodies had been found, but with the dam again threatening to give way, even Leakey was forced to retreat. It would be his last caving trip. The search continued through Monday night and Tuesday. Mossdale had become international news. Sightseers and camera crews joined the rescuers, turning the moor into a macabre circus. But the rescuers remained focused on one goal: finding John Ogden. At 10 p.m. on Tuesday, Ogden's friend Brian Boardman led a final 6-man team into the cave. Beyond where the other bodies had been found, Boardman spotted a gold ring. Then, he saw a boot projecting from a narrow fissure. The crack was heartbreakingly small. It seemed impossible that anyone could have climbed into it. But somehow Ogden had fought his way there, seeking the last pocket of air. The team emerged into a bleak dawn on Wednesday. One look at their faces told Ogden's father all he needed to know. The battle was lost. All 6 cavers were dead. Now came the hardest decision. Rain was still falling, and the dam remained unstable. It took 5 hours of crawling just to reach the bodies. Their retrieval seemed impossible. The coroner, Stephen Brown, met with the parents, police, and rescue leaders. He obtained Home Office permission to hold an inquest without the bodies. He ordered the cave to be permanently sealed and respected as a grave. It was a painful decision for everyone involved. Cavers pride themselves on always bringing their own out, no matter the cost. Many protested the decision to seal the cave, especially as it hadn't been fully explored. But after 4 grueling days, 300 exhausted rescuers went home, leaving their 6 comrades buried beneath Conestone Moor. The rescue report concluded with a poignant statement. Never has so much been done by so many people for such a small reward. The Mossdale tragedy left deep scars on all involved. Morag Forbes, who was to have married Dave Adamson a month later, never spoke publicly about the incident again. John Ogden's parents renamed their house Mossdale. Frank Barnes walked to the cave every anniversary saying, "A bit of us all drowned with them down there. We've had a life, but they haven't." If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to True Perils for more interesting videos.